You should never be afraid of the numbers. If they tell you this is how much it's going to be a month, don't be afraid. Just look into options and always resource yourself to God.
Obviously costs so much more to get a customer than it does to just retain the ones that you have, I think.
So if someone doesn't truly need something, we're not going to sell it to them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you ultimately do just foster long-term relationships that way too, when you're not trying to shove things down people's throat or hard sell your customer.
God is going to provide and take care of us, right? As long as we do the right thing.
Hello, friends. I'm Adam Loveridge, and welcome to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, From Growth to Acquisition. I'm the owner and founder of Blue Forge Marketing. We are a home services marketing agency specializing in heating and air conditioning, plumbing, remodeling, and garage door contractors. For more information about Blue Forge Marketing, visit us online at blueforgemarketing.com. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Home Services Marketing Podcast, From Growth to Acquisition. My name is Adam Loveridge with Blue Forge Marketing. I'm joined here today by Luis Francisco from Stashluk Plumbing Heating and Air, and they're out of New Jersey. Luis, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's absolutely my pleasure, Luis. So I'm really excited about this particular episode. We're going to be talking about a subject really that's kind of near and dear to my heart. And that's really just about faith. Okay. And one of the core values that Luis shared with me that they have as a business is to always have faith. And so I really want to dive into that. We're going to be talking a lot about why it's important to know your why, things along those lines. But before we get into all of that, let's talk a little bit, Luis, about kind of what your background is, where you came from. How did you get started in this business?
Okay, so a little bit about me. So I came to this country when I was about 12 years old. I've been here for about 20. I started in this field about 12 years ago. Didn't have nothing to do. I was looking for a career and somewhere where I could excel, doing something with my hands. And, I ended up doing HVAC. I took an HVAC course. And then from there, they placed me at a location. And, I just decided to keep working. And, any opportunity that I get to work extra, going early to learn more about the field so I could be a technician and make more money to be able to provide for my family. That's what I was doing.
When did you start Stashluk?
So basically Stashluk, I was working at Stashluk for about 10 years, I'll say, so I was here for a while and the owners, they want to retire. His kids didn't want to take over the business and I actually approached him and, ask him, hey, if you're ever interested in selling, I'll be really interested in buying it because my plan was to either open my own business, but if I was offered the opportunity to buy this one, I would do it.
Yeah, I love that actually. And what I really appreciate about this is that this is the Home Services Marketing Growth to Acquisition podcast. So we talk about acquisition quite a bit. We talk about private equity, things along these lines, but it sounds like you actually bought Stashluk and bought an existing business. And what I love about that is I always tell people, like, you don't have to build every business from the ground up, man. Sometimes it's a lot easier just to go grab something that's already working, that's already running, and come in and make it better. And I'd love to know a little bit more about what that deal looked like for you. How much the company was doing in revenue at the time, and what you've been able to do with it since.
You should never be afraid of the numbers. If they tell you this is how much it's going to be a month, don't be afraid. Just look into options and always resource yourself to God. You know what I'm saying? But when I first took over the business, we were generating about 1.5 a year. Um, the first year I took over, we went to about 2.3, and then just marketing. You got to learn about how things work, the system, your CRMs, and marketing, where you're spending money and where it's worth to invest your money into to be able to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you said you were about 1.5 then. First year you grew to about 2.3. And how long ago was the transaction when you bought Stashluk?
About 2 years. We might have been around like 1.8, 1.7 around there, but our numbers pretty. It was a big gap.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like, been able to increase performance. What do you guys expect to do by the end of 2025 in revenue?
This year we probably gonna be around like 2.2 around there this year, just because staffing, some employers leaving, hiring new people and everything else, but we still are doing pretty well.
So I know you do both plumbing and HVAC. How many plumbing service trucks do you guys have, and how many HVAC service trucks do you have?
So if we had to split it in half, it would be three and three, and then we got like a truck that's just for parts and like bigger jobs and whatnot.
Cool, awesome. And talk to me about how you guys are marketing the business right now. Obviously, you're like, coming in here a couple of years in, you've had to learn about all this different stuff. What are the ways that you guys are getting new customers coming through the door right now?
We do a lot of like in-house marketing where we'll retarget the same exact customers that we had them for years. It could be email promotions, also memberships, annual maintenance, tune-ups,
Yeah,
plumbing inspections, safety inspections. So basically, email campaigns. That's one way to marketing within our existing customer, within our existing database. So never limit yourself. There's always opportunities out there. It's always you always got to find an angle. It could be a promotion for winter promotion.
yeah, yeah,
So and then SEO obviously.
yeah, yeah. It kind of seems like that's just something that you really can't get away from in the home services space. I mean, I think we all kind of hate SEO, and at the same time too, it's one of those necessary evils a lot of time. Would you agree?
I agree, but again, you got to educate yourself on the platform that you're using. What can you do to improve it? And also, if you invest into any SEO company, you should do your own SEO audit to your own website so you'll be able to see what are these guys actually offering you. Are they doing any backlinks and what backlinks are they using for you to be able to boost your local services? And if you're using
Yeah,
Google Ads, what's your return on investment on that?
absolutely. Are you guys using Google Ads over there at Stashluk?
Not at the moment. We were using it, but like spending $2,500 a month and not seeing your return on investment, it's not really worth it. They have LSA now, which is a little bit better, but we haven't really jumped into it yet.
So really, then it sounds like kind of just both internal marketing as well as doing SEO. And frankly, we see a lot of that with I think plumbing companies out there where it's kind of like the dentist, and I think this is true of HVAC, both of them, right? It's that if you're doing it right, you're coming back to the house once or twice a year. And you're getting back in the home, you're getting back in front of those customers, and really starting to just improve the lifetime value, if you will, of each and every client. And I think that book of business is what really, at the end of the day, drives the higher multiples, if you will, when a company turns around and sells, because it's those are the established customers, and it obviously costs so much more to get a customer than it does to just retain the ones that you have, I think.
Exactly, and that is very important to retain your customers, customer relationship, going the extra mile for your customers. That's very important. And also, um, things that are very important is training your technicians to be able to respect people's houses. And if they are gonna, we don't, you don't have to sell anything or upsell anything. It's always educate your customers so nobody else comes and educate them for you.
That's actually a really, really good point.
What's a humidifier? What's a heat pump hot water heater? Why should you get one? What's a tankless?
Right.
So the more you educate your technicians on what things are and what they do and what benefits they offer the customer, the easier things will become, and always have like the standard, which is putting shoe covers on when you walk in somebody's house, and always get an exchanger before you do any work in somebody's house.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, nobody wants a bunch of mud being tracked through their home, and for that matter, I think that really, what I hear you saying is that we are really looking for our technicians to be educators at the end of the day, and educating our clients and customers on what the options are. And I think that there's a difference between that, in terms of educating, and then just trying to push product, right? Or trying to push sales. And I've seen it kind of go both ways. And I'm curious what you've seen in terms of the difference between, say, the educational approach and a hard sale tactic.
It will always be an educational purpose, because if someone doesn't truly need something, we're not going to sell it to them. It's best to,
Gotcha.
offer you the benefits, you know, and if you truly don't need it, then, if you have a new system and we offer you a option for a modulating system so your house is comfortable throughout your whole house and you're not interested in that, then you're not interested in that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you ultimately do just foster long-term relationships that way too, when you're not trying to shove things down people's throat or hard sell your customers. And I think that I mean, we've seen both sides of it, and being in the industry for a while. And I think that the softer educational approach tends to win out longer, produce more profitable relationships in the long term than short-term sales tactics do. And then obviously, and actually I've got a question for you about that. And that is do you commission your technicians on sales, or are they straight hourly? How do you guys do comp?
All the technicians are hourly, but they also get commission. Like for a system, if they sell a system, they all get commission. They everybody gets rewarded according to their work. That's the bottom line. If you don't want to call it commission, everybody gets rewarded for their hard
Yeah, I
efforts.
love that. Luis, we talked a little bit earlier about some of the core values there, and some of the things that are really kind of important to you at Stashluk. And one of the things that came up for me was talking about the why, right? Like, why am I doing this? Why is any of this important in the first place? And the idea of having a why, or a big why rather. And I'd love for you to just educate our listeners a little bit on, what that has looked like for you and why it's important maybe for other home service contractors to have that big why.
So basically, the why for me is like has determined how far can I go and how much can I excel. What's the purpose of doing what we do every day? It's just not, making a check. It is very important, but like, why is it just a check? So once you know your why you're driven, why we come in to work and why we do the things we do, will help you excel more. Basically, I could just give a quick example, of something that could make a little bit of sense
Please.
to some people. So it's this book called Compound Effect, right? That they talk about the why there. So it's a building that's burning, and then across, and it's a rope in between the two buildings. It's two buildings. One is not burning, and the other one is burning. And they offer this person, I'll give you $100,000 to walk on the rope to go to the burning building and come back. And it's like, no, you're crazy. I'm gonna lose my life if I go there. Now, the only thing that changed for her to go to that building is like, so now let's change the scenario. Your kids are in that building, and it's a woman. Your kids are there. So now the why is so big that I am gonna run on the rope and go over there to the burning building, and get my kids. And if
Gotcha.
I don't make it back,
Yeah.
I don't make it back. But the why is so big that it doesn't matter what's in between the two bridges.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes perfect sense to me. And to just kind of follow that up a little bit, have there been any situations that you can recall, in recent months where you've had that maybe conflict of, you know, here's our why and we know our why. Here's an alternative that maybe doesn't align with that why. What do we do?
Basically, buying the business, like, this is just like we want to succeed in life and we want to do great things, So it's like when they come at me, like, you know, you're gonna pay, over $1 million for this, and it's like, I never heard about this number before in my life, But since the motivation and the why is so big that we find the way, the resources, and God provides, and we get things done. And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Absolutely. And you talked about earlier about your acquisition and different things, and I'm wondering specifically, you mentioned that not to worry about the monthly payment, right? Different things along these lines. And I'm wondering kind of what your experience was that really led you to share that advice, and maybe just uncover that a little bit more for me, if you wouldn't mind.
God is gonna provide and take care of us, right? As long as we do the right thing, So, like, you might not have work for 2 months or 3 months, your schedule booked, but every day, somebody calls in, another customer calls in, and the schedule gets full. As long as you have faith, be positive, and God is going to take care of you. Don't be negative, and just always look for opportunities. If God brought us here, He's not going to let us fail right here. That's like the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me a little bit more about your faith. Where does your faith come from, and what does your background look like along those lines?
Truthfully speaking, just having like a tough upbringing, like, sometimes your dad is not home, your mom is not home, and you see what you've been saved from and how far you made it, and the only reason is God. You know what I'm saying? In a simple way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
a lot of us been in bad situations. It could be a car accident if you want to see it like that. It could be a really tremendous childhood, or it could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be your childhood, but God had saved you for a purpose.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I grew up in a religious background here in Utah. You could probably guess which one that is. I used to be a card carrying Mormon anyway, and not that that was necessarily choice, but it didn't sit with me as well. And I also come from an alcoholic background and had a lot of trauma and different things around that. And it's interesting because I want to say it was probably my late 30s that I started having this spiritual awakening when the way that I was trying to approach life no longer worked. And I realize now it's because I was trying to take the survival techniques that I learned when I was young and apply them in my adult life. And for the most part, that came off as trying to control everything around me, right?
Yeah.
and and so we talk about God, and I really like the acronym for God of being good orderly direction. If for people that have a hard time with the Old Testament version of God, or whatever conception of God they have, that for me, I think really does dovetail so much into the why behind things, because I realized that as I started having this spiritual awakening and started really drawing closer to the God of my understanding, what I realized was is that service was really important for me, and I had been so self-absorbed and so self-centered around everything that was important to me that I really didn't look too far outside to everybody else. And fast forward almost a decade, I'm involved in some 12-step things and different stuff like that, but I'm very heavy into service now, and giving back to people and being able to help uplift people, and so that's become a really really big why for me. And I didn't realize how much that was really driving things in terms of my own agency and whatever else too, because obviously we get paid to help our clients succeed, but at the end of the day, that isn't what the real thing of it is for me. I had a client come over the other day and do a video testimonial, and they were really really struggling and almost going to go out of business. Similar thing, had bought a company. Turns out it was a Ponzi kind of scheme almost, and what they said was there in the finances weren't actually there. So they're in these lawsuits and all of this other stuff, but basically put them in a position where they didn't have any cash flow. And we were able to come in very quickly and help them generate a significant amount of call volume to where they were doing, this is a trenchless sewer line company, but they were doing about 2 digs a week, and now they're 6 weeks booked out. And it's made this huge thing. But when I got to sit and listen to how this person was benefited and able to hire on more people and able to help feed the bellies of other people on their staff and start to fix his cash flow situation, that for me was the why behind it, right? And it's like I like to help other people grow and be successful in whatever it is that they're doing. And I'm curious, Luis, what is your why?
My why is basically providing and being a better man than I ever had in my life. Like basically for my kids, being a better dad and be able to pay for their college, having something nice for myself, be able to have a nice car or a nice house. Because, everything is gonna pass, but once this is over and I'm able to move on, maybe pass my knowledge down to other people, give back to what I've been my processes, and maybe I could help motivate other people's, Always like to be able to help out others, in the process of this, because our blessings are not our blessings alone.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, man. That's fantastic. Luis, one of the things that I really like to talk about on this podcast, because this is, we obviously like to talk about marketing because it's all about home services marketing, but it's also the home services marketing growth to acquisition podcast. And obviously, you bought Stashluk here just a couple of years ago, but I'm curious, what is your exit strategy? And do you see a sell of Stashluk again in the future, or what does that look like for you?
As of right now, I don't see a sell, but I do have a because I'm 32 now, so I want to just grow it,
You got a while
and
still.
yeah, I want to grow it, invest it, and make it more our system, make it more automated, our price book more automated, and just have a better system, and then eventually sell it on to the next person. Which right now, if I let's say right now is it's like my time to move on to something else. Somebody could just come here, sit here, and probably run the business. Just
Yeah.
because, but
Yeah.
there's other back end stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, and certainly, if you are going to sell a business, having a business that's more turnkey, that really the secret is right is having something that throws off cash without your needing to be there, and and I love hearing about where you're like, I'm gonna knock out these processes, we're gonna fix the price book, all this other stuff, because really that is what I think is really smart, is starting with the end goal in mind, and just systematically building processes, procedures, systems, everything else to go through and really be to a place where you're not the one that's having to be involved in the day to day anymore as the business owner, right? You own the trains. And but somebody else makes sure that the trains show up on time and do everything else, and all of that. So, is there any advice that you would give to a prospective plumber, HVAC contractor that wants to go out, do their own thing, maybe is working as a technician now, and heard this podcast and said, "Man, I love this idea of going out and just buying an existing business." What advice would you give?
I feel like it could be two options, but one is like you have to work hard, you know, and especially if you don't come from money, you have to work hard. If you could build your clientele, respect the business you work for always, you don't have to take anything for the business that you work for, not their customers. If they want to pay you, you don't have to do that. It's more than enough customers for you to service. You don't have to service the same area or the same customers. If you live in one town, you can always promote your work. Or once you meet people, if your kids go to the park, build a relationship. And one of the most important things is, besides working hard, you also have to be a people person. Be friendly, be respectful, you know. Don't be that guy that just make a connection with people, build a relationship, but also offer good service. And around those lines is build your clientele. If you have to work after hours, don't be afraid. If you have to work on Sundays, this comes with a lot of sacrifice, man. It was a lot of times that I had to get home at 12 o'clock at night, get up in the morning at 6 in the morning, go back to work 8 hours, and then after that, go back and do my side jobs. And I did this for years.
Thanks again, Luis. It's been wonderful having you on the show. Again, I've been joined here by Luis Francisco with Stashluk Plumbing, Heating, and Air. They're out of New Jersey. I'm Adam Loveridge with Blue Forge Marketing. This has been another episode of the Home Services Marketing Growth to Acquisition podcast, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. Thanks so much again, Luis.